There we go. Now you can hear me. Now you can hear me. What up, everybody? We got a lot to cover, and I need to condense it down as quickly as I can, but I want to give you guys all the information. So we're going to go over quite a few things, share this out. Okay, viewership's finally going up. And man, we got to fix my numbers in there. Thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's a good day. That's why I want to sum this up, but I also want to get this out. I also have already canceled enough shows, so I need to be doing shows. It's really hard when you get on a path of canceling them and trying to get back into the algorithm. So got to keep pushing. But yeah, we got a lot to cover. So let me. Where did my notes go? see what kind of day my day has been. It's just been chaos. So we got to talk about the SAVE Act. Huge changes today. Kind of weird. We're going to talk about it. But we're also going to show you some of the political theater that's been going on around this. So we're going to kind of see how this we're going to see how this SAVE Act goes. I'm going to warn you, we need to be super cautious. We need to be super cautious on what actually goes into what is now being called Save America Act. So it's no longer the SAVE Act, it's the Save America Act, is what we'll hear in some of the later videos that it's getting renamed as, which means more pork, probably more pages, more garbage, and more funding for other things that we probably don't want it to be funding. And I can speak for myself and say, for sure, what I don't want it to be funding, because we're going to cover the spending bill today. We're going to touch on that. The SAVE Act, we're not getting into the details because we don't have it yet, but we're going to go over the SAVE Act and some of the political theater around it. We got to talk about what Kash Patel is telling you to do with the Epstein files and about the Epstein files, because Kash Patel is saying, just forget about him. Forget about him. So we're going to kind of we're going to hear what he has to say about that. We also need to talk about what's going on in the state of Utah. Utah has fallen, guys. The protests today at the Capitol over a bill that we're trying to legislate a law, which I'm normally against regulation, but there's only one way to solve this, and it is to fix it with that. I don't see any other solution there. We need to build gallows for the files. I agree. I need to build gallows for a lot of things. I'm with you, Phil. I'm right there, man. I was telling Free last night, I'm more and more going to screw all political parties, and we need to burn everything down. Because honestly, there's no other solution. Like, there's no fixing it. There's no voting to fix Congress. There's no voting to fix the government. We got to prepare to separate ourselves from the government. That's probably our next path, because this is getting scary, and there's not much to really be optimistic about, to be very frank. The SAVE Act scares me now that they've renamed it. The bill is going to be insane. The bill is going to be insane. Let's jump into this real quick. Let's jump into just showing you some of the political theater. We'll break down the spending bill. I want you guys to guess in the comments that are watching right now. Throw in the comments how much money do you think we sent to Israel? How much money do we think we spent on Greenland, or are funding or prepared to spend on Greenland? Because that's in the spending bill to keep America open, the government, and we have to worry about Greenland. We have to allocate funds for Greenland. Why? We never have done that before. This is why we can't trust our government, guys. This is insane. The amount of spending in here, not to mention stuff I already talked about, like the kill switch that Thomas Massie tried to get removed. That was voted down, and still had like 57 Republicans vote against it, and that's why it failed. All right, let's get into this, because we're going to start with Donald Trump with the SAVE Act and what he had to say about it after signing the spending bill. I want to go into the spending bill a little bit later. But with Trump, after he passed the spending bill, he addressed the media like he always does, and he was talking about the SAVE Act. Let me get that pulled up here. Why don't I see? Why don't I see my tab in here? What in the world is going on? All right, hang on. We're pivoting. Let's move this over here then. So if I do this, sorry guys, it's coming up. There we go. Now let's see if I can share that page, because it should have been working. That one? There it is. Okay. So here's Donald Trump post signing the spending bill. He was asked questions about the SAVE Act on all of those things. Thank you, Audrey. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear this, because all of a sudden there was no sound. Oh, it's really quiet.
Things that I think everybody wants to see.
That's awful.
Who would not want voter ID? Only someone.
Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear that.
We don't have voter ID. And the Democrats don't want it. And the reason they don't want it is because they want to cheat. Because there's no reason in the world. And I love that debate, Lindsay. I love saying, well, why don't you want voter ID? And you watch them say, I don't know. I just can't vote. I know. It's a terrible thing. So anyway.
Cool.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Or we should have vote.
So he's trying to say, why would you vote against the voter ID? It is a little quiet. That was a bad video, bad clip. But he's asking, in essence, we'll shut this down and then we'll play some other ones, which I know those ones are better. So when it comes to the SAVE Act, he's like, why won't you want voter ID? Sure, I understand that. That's reasonable in my opinion. Because I honestly think that we need to make that scenario to where we only have the people here, even though there's already protections in place in a lot of states to make the decision, but some states are not. But I need to read this bill. So we're making a big deal about the SAVE Act all of a sudden, and you notice how all over the internet everybody's perpetuating the same thing. I'm saying pass the SAVE Act that we have, that we already know and we can already read. All of a sudden today, we're talking about a new bill called Save America Act. It is not the same bill as the SAVE Act. And so now I'm holding my paw. I'm holding on, promoting it, because we don't even know what's in the freaking bill. We know what these people do when you blindly trust them with spending money and be able to and just get away with whatever they want. Like, for example, if you wanted to try to find this the spending bill that was passed, it's not as clean cut as you think. You have to go and find all of the amendments, all of the things that were voted on for it, piece the whole thing together. It's not easy, and no wonder why Americans can't figure it out until after it passes, and then someone that knows how to navigate the system actually tells you about it, which that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to go over some of the stuff that stands out to me. But we need to have that same caution with every bill, everything. And honestly, I'd be fine if we just stop with bills, all of them. We don't need any more. Let's just stop. Let's figure out how we're going to cut spending. Like, we don't need these bills anymore. We don't need to spend more money. We don't need to keep up more regulations. We don't need to expand regulations, because every time Congress comes up with a bill, we lose rights and we lose money out of our bank accounts. It's either inflation, or the cost of our goods go up, or we end up just losing the dollar. Like, in general, the dollar has been in the crapper, but we have our government telling us our economy is great. It's insane. So we have to be cautious here. But let's look at this political theater that we have that is going on. So John, let's start with Chuck Schumer, and then we'll go to John Thune right after, because there is some issues I have with the Republicans and what they're saying about John Thune. Thank you, Jenny. With John Thune, he is trying to explain the process of what it actually takes to get bills done. He is telling people, hey, this is going to get filibustered. It's not going to make progress. We need to figure things out, and we're going to go over that. But then you have Chuck Schumer doing this, doing the normal Democrat way.
We've got to get this done, and we've got to get it done very quickly. The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the
Right. Is
country.
it?
We are going to do everything we can to stop it. We've got to.
So the SAVE Act is Jim Crow 2.0. Jim Crow 2.0. Has he read the SAVE Act? It's a pretty simple bill. It's not complicated. I want to say it's less than a handful of pages. Hang on, let's look at that. SAVE Act, Congress. Let me go pull that up. SAVE Act right here. It is. Yeah, that. Let me get the PDF so I can figure out how many pages it is. I'm downloading it right now. Oh, come on, download. Open. There it is. Oh, it is actually a little bit longer than I thought. 26 pages. Still not bad. That's actually really short for a congressional bill. All of the bills are hundreds of thousands of pages. It's exaggeration a little bit, but you get my point. This guy right here is comparing the SAVE Act to Jim Crow 2.0. Absolutely insane. Insane. But then you have everybody on the other side that are sitting there talking about other situations and other things, making this into a bigger scenario than it really is. But all they're doing is this political theater to create more of a divide and to get everybody to turn against each other. And so when you have John Thune coming out and actually talking about the process, now you have the Republicans, and I'm not a big fan of John Thune. To be very clear, I'm not really defending him, but if you actually have an open mind and listen to what he is saying here, he will explain to you the challenge that he sees. And it's not going to work if he goes and just throws the bill into the Senate for a vote, because there's threats of filibusters already. So let's hear him.
Try to outlast the Democratic minority under current rules. Do you have any expectation that you can succeed with that, given the enormous difficulty of doing that? In fact, the previous majority has not been able to.
Right. Well, I guess, and I would just remind people that the coin in the realm in the Senate is floor time. There's a finite amount of it. And we have a lot of things we have to do. There's a housing bill that's awaiting action, hopefully a market structure bill, possibly permitting reform, farm bill, highway bill. You can go right down the list. Russia sanctions. There are a whole bunch of things that could be teed up for action on the floor of the Senate. And so you have to make some judgments, and the conference will have a conversation about that. I've committed to that we will talk about that idea and determine whether or not what the conference's views are about it and how they want to proceed. As I said, we will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising or triggering a talking filibuster.
Right there. He said we will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising the filibuster.
Exercising or triggering a talking filibuster has ramifications, implications that I think everybody needs to be aware of.
And the ramifications and all of that, it causes roadblocks. It causes more stir. Now, some would say that, hey, call them out, let them go out and do the filibuster, let them expose themselves. You already know the Democrats are posed to be able to do a filibuster. You had what's his face, Timu Obama, Hakeem Jeffries do it last year, I believe. Last year or 2 years ago. He did a whole filibuster, and it's common. Rand Paul has done a great one. I want to say his was like 13 hours or something like that. And they will do it. So you got to figure out how you're going to get close enough to the vote before you actually put it out for a vote. If you just throw it out without an understanding or enough co-sponsors, you are running this at risk, and you're just going to be sitting there. You're going to be sitting there. You're not going to be making any progress. It's not going to be doing anything. So when all of the talking heads on the freaking internet that don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they just say it needs to be done, John Thune is holding this up. He could be. But let's think logically here. Think logically about this entire scenario and put on a clear thinking hat. Yes, it will probably get filibustered. So you need to get it so close to where you have enough votes to win that you're comfortable with inserting it, and then you can have those conversations and figure it out when it comes to the filibuster actually happening. If you were just to throw it out there without that planning, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. This is where ignorance of the political system and how things work is ruining the political climate, and it's causing people to really talk about shit that they know nothing about. You got to make some progress here. This is where I'm concerned, though. I will be honest, like them changing the name of it to Save America Act makes me think that there's some other shit in this bill. There's a whole lot of other stuff in there that we need to be concerned about, because we had 50 something Republicans vote to put a kill switch in your car, any car that was made, I want to say 2026 and newer. That was put in to be repealed by Thomas Massey, and 50 something Republicans voted to not repeal it and not put that repeal in the spending bill. That is horrible. And we're going to touch on the spending bill and we'll go into the details there. But when it comes down to how politics works, it's sometimes a game, but it's also sometimes you got to learn to negotiate and compromise. Compromise used to be a thing in politics all the time. Compromise is what we used to do 10, 15 years ago. We don't compromise anymore. Everybody digs their heels in and says, my side's right, your side's wrong. That is why we are in this situation today. No one is coming at these things with any clear mind, any logical understanding. They're a talking head on the internet so they can get clicks and then they can get money. How many big accounts out there are just pushing this bullshit when they don't really know what the hell they're talking about? Yeah, could John Thune be a problem? I'm not a fan. But what he just said is exactly what would happen. We saw it happen already with prior bills. And it's common to utilize the filibuster. The filibuster, we're saying, is what do we say? It's our history or something like that. Anyways, they're saying all kinds of stupid stuff. I am, for one, very indifferent now on the filibuster. I used to be a big supporter of it. Here today, I think we could get away with it. I think it could go away, and then we can figure out how we can deal with things later. And so I'm fine with getting rid of the filibuster at this point, and streamlining things and getting rid of this song and dance, which gets everybody on the internet up in arms. So if we can remove one of those roadblocks and then just focus on voting and exposing who's voting for what, and we make that public, then it makes the process a little bit easier and simpler to spread to you guys and to other Americans. So you guys know what the hell is going on in Congress. Let's go ahead and pull up what JD Vance had a segment with Megyn Kelly. And I give JD Vance a lot of credit. He has grown a lot. I don't know if he's taking speaking classes or if he is working on his presentation and his appearance publicly. But I like the way he talks now. I still got to see what his real policies are. We don't have any clue on how he's going to do things. We can tell he's citing everything with Donald Trump, but we can also see he disagreed with Donald Trump when it came to bombing some other nations. So we're going to have to see what that looks like. But I've told you guys already, I'm never voting in a presidential election ever again. Ever. I'm done. After this last one, I was lied to, manipulated, and they did everything that everything the opposite of why I voted the way I did. I didn't want new wars. I wanted to cut spending, and I wanted to cut the size of government with Doge. And we did exactly the opposite on all three of those items in this current administration. We have invaded another country and kidnapped their president. And we have spent a ridiculous amount of money since he has taken office. And yeah, we have shut down a couple agencies, but I wanted the whole government doged, not a couple agencies. What up, David? Glad you're here, man. All right, let's hear what he had to say.
Very hard right now to get the Senate to approve it, because if the Senate approves it, we think the House would approve it too. Now, that would require, I think, some Republican senators who maybe they're a little too attached to the filibuster, maybe they're a little too attached to Senate procedure. This is about the integrity of American democracy. Like, do the people control who they elect, or do some shady people It's like who actually controls the people who cast the ballots or the people who count the ballots? We want the sovereignty to be with the people who cast the ballots, and that's why we have to get the SAVE Act passed. And you'll hear people say all the time, and I love this argument. They'll say, well, if you look at this precinct, only 3 illegal aliens voted in this election.
Valid.
Number one, that's 3 illegal aliens too many. And number two, if it's not a big problem, then why not just allow us to check ID and exercise some basic precautions to prevent illegal aliens from voting? I never quite understand the person who says, on the one hand, this never happens, and on the other hand, your effort to prevent it from happening is a threat to American democracy, which is fundamentally the Democrats' argument. By the way, it's like an 85-15 issue.
Yeah.
Most Democrats want voter ID because they want to protect their own vote.
But the elected leaders don't want to vote for it.
The elected leaders don't, because they know that the more control they give to the people who are counting the ballots, as opposed to those who are casting the ballots, the more control they will have.
Yeah, and he's not wrong, guys. Like, JD Vance is not wrong in that scenario. We're saying it here in Utah. My lieutenant general oversees our elections here. Magically, somehow she re-won a questionable election in 2024. And she oversaw the election. Weird. But yeah, they use that excuse all the time, and they just did it. They just ran an audit, supposedly, and they have found 3 registered voters that were not U.S. citizens. So it's not a problem. Okay, then can we still just pass this then? Because I have no problem. If we need an ID to buy alcohol, we need an ID to go get on a plane, we need an ID to do all of these other things. I would like it for the decision making in my country, so that way we can make sure the people in this country can make the decisions and we don't get overran by anybody else. It will also help clean up congressional seats, because it would deter people from actually being involved, and they probably wouldn't even participate in census. And then your congressional seats can even out, because right now the census can be filled out and you could add congressional seats in your state when you have a whole bunch of illegals filling out the census. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. So when it comes down to these things, we need to be thinking logically, not with your party. Like, I think I said it earlier, I'm done with all parties. I'm done with the entire system. The federal level, I'm done with it. It all just needs to go away. There's no fixing it. I'm just going to start focusing on my community and my state. And that's how I'm going to build it, because if the country falls, then hopefully I have a strong enough state to withstand whatever would be coming. But overall, the SAVE Act and all of this political theater is going on. They put all of this effort over the last month on social media to push the SAVE Act. And now they're changing the name to the Save America Act. We have to ask ourselves why. Trump doesn't want to control the census numbers, i.e., why do you think he won't go after immigrants in Texas? That's an interesting concept, Phil. I would like to talk to you more about that, because I think that he's trusting Abbott to do it. But I think you have some information that I don't know, because I trust a lot of your insight. I know we don't agree on a lot of things, but I actually do appreciate your opinion and your thoughts on things. So let's talk about that, because I'm curious more on what I'm missing. Overall, when it comes to this situation, I'm good if we can just get a voter ID in place. But voter ID, and we're gonna jump to Mike Lee's video. Let's jump to Mike Lee's video. Came out not too long ago, just a little bit earlier today, announcing they're going to get it on the floor to vote. I think it just came out just barely before I went live. They will vote on the SAVE Act next week, because Congress can't work 5 days in a row. So it will be next week. We can't get the SAVE Act. We have the SAVE Act right now. It's already done. The SAVE Act was already produced, put on the floor. It's been there since April 10th by Chip Roy. It's been there since April 10th, 2025. But now we're doing the Save America Act. We can't do it now. We got to do it next week, because Congress is too busy to do anything tomorrow or Friday while you and I still go to work. We still have all of our shit to do, but these guys that are millionaires with only making $175,000 a year, weird, they're too busy to be able to make this happen. It's a huge priority, guys. Huge priority. We have a bill already written up. It's not good enough. Like, you can't make this crap up. These guys are straight comical. Comical. All right, let's do this. So you got Mike Lee. This is just a photo of Chip Roy. I don't know who put this together, but let's hear what Mike Lee says and we'll talk about it.
Brief update on the SAVE Act. This has been a huge day, great development. We've added more co-sponsors, and we've now got Senator Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, indicating that we'll be bringing it up for a vote. So Chip Roy and I, who introduced the SAVE Act for the first time 2 years ago, are retrofitting the SAVE Act to add in the voter ID requirement, something that we had originally included in what we were going to propose. We're adding it back in. We're going to file that and get this thing ready for a vote. Stay tuned and keep the volume up because we need all the support we can get.
Okay, he did not say Save America Act, so I must be mixing up. But anyways, he mentioned, hey, we're going to add some details back into the bill, and it will go on the floor next week. Well, it will go onto the floor to vote. He didn't say the time frame. It was just announced just before I went live. Let me see. I think it was Anna Paulina Luna's video where she said they're going to rename it. And it's now going to be called, let me see if I can find her video.
Or is that the votes do not exist in the Senate among Republican senators.
Let me see here. That's there. There we go. Let's copy this link and let's bring this over. So on here, there we go. Reshare again. Is that one? No. There it is. Why don't I see it now? What the freak is going on? My computer is really messing with me right now. X on Chrome. There we go. Okay, here we go. So here's
One thing that I'm not
Anna
so happy to
Paulina.
report is that the votes do not exist in the Senate among Republican senators to remove the filibuster. That is why the standing filibuster is so important. And I know you do not have the votes currently to remove the filibuster on your own, but that is why the standing filibuster is so important. And you know that. And so what I will say is that even though Schumer is trying to make it look like everyone that wants voter ID is racist, I'm sure you've seen the polling, Leader Thune, and you see that the national voter ID is actually a wildly bipartisan issue. It doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, people want it. And so this is one of the top issues in our country right now. Please restore the people's faith in our election process. It's incredibly important. But I also know that I talked to Speaker Johnson, and we will be passing what we can out of the House on the Save America Act. However, there are vehicles that we can attach this to.
See, there you go. Save America Act. And so here is where we're talking about we're changing it. We're going to change up the bill. I told you how many pages was in the bill originally just a minute ago. We're going to find out what's going to be in this new bill. And as soon as I know it, I will be sharing it with you guys. Of course, you guys know that's my thing. I love to break things down, give it to you in layman's terms. And no one wants to read the legalese. No one does. I'm the weirdo. I don't mind it. I actually like going through it and understanding it because one day they're going to just keep going with all of this and someone's got to understand this stuff. So Kim says, if the states are responsible for their own voter laws, how can federal government give voter ID mandate? Good question. So the states control the elections. However, the federal government has a big involvement in federal elections. So when there is a federal election, there is certain requirements. Now with Congress and with the presidential election, those will require voter ID. Now, a state can attach themselves to that and be like, oh, we're going to just do this for everything. That's a state's obligation. I actually support them to do what they want. Potentially put it on a ballot. Let the citizens decide how it's done. I'm almost done with politicians entirely and just say everything mob rule sucks, but I think if we can start putting things on the table and one-page bills, we can start making a lot of progress and letting Americans really start driving things. Because even though we're in a constitutional republic, we're corrupt in a lot of places, and it's really hard to fix that. And some of these things should just be made by us. We like some of the spending that goes overseas, and when it comes to raises in Congress, yes, we should vote for those things. We shouldn't allow anybody in Congress or an elected official to be running through those things, because when we're talking about that, we really need to be breaking it down to where people understand / know the impact. Like, it was on Free Show last night. Are you smarter than a politician? There was a question on there that would you support taking a paid more taxes to bomb another country, to enter in a war with another country? And so when you do that, no. And if you actually put that on the bill that, hey, I am going to tax you an extra $200 a month to go after this country, you put that on the ballot, I guarantee you it won't pass. Guarantee you. No, Americans can't afford that. But can we hide it and we say, oh, yeah, it's the government is just doing it. The government is just doing it. No, but as soon as you actually correlate it and you bring it down and you put it in front of Americans and say, you are actually funding this and this is coming from your paycheck, I believe Americans are going to stop that. They should have been paid in months. Let's start with I agree with you. I agree with you. But when it comes down to this whole thing, the SAVE Act, I was a fan of it. I read it. It's logical. I'm good with it. Now the Save America Act that we're starting to hear from congressmen and congresswomen today, I have my guard up. Every time we make a change to a bill and we give it a different name, all of a sudden it adds 10,000 pages and funding and $10 billion going off to Zimbabwe for research on how much sand can fit in a bottle. Like, that's how stupid we do things. And we need to be cautious. So just because the SAVE Act existed in the way that it does right now does not mean that's the same bill they're voting on next week. And we need to keep an eye on it. Follow me on X. I'm going to post all of it as soon as it comes out, as soon as we have it. We need to be making sure that what they're doing is logical and what we want. Thanks, Derek. I appreciate you, man. But overall, like, this is a scary thing that our congressional, how to say this, our elected officials in Congress are learning how to use social media in such a way to manipulate people to get movement on things. The SAVE Act thing and the movement around it was not really organic. It went nuts. And now all of a sudden, when we're going to get it to the vote, we're changing the name of it. All right. Well, we'll see how big this bill is. We're going to see what's in this bill. It should only be about our election. It should only be about establishing voter ID. It should only be about securing the federal elections. It should not be about overriding states and states' rights in elections or anything like that, which may happen. I'm watching for it. It should be just about securing federal elections. That's their duty. States, every individual state can do their own thing individually. My state has already done their thing. Oh, hey, Chris. But overall, the whole thing that we got to be looking at here is keeping our eyes open on the bill. Follow me. I'll keep you on it, as most of you are. Like, you know me. We'll be watching these things. We're going to be going down the rabbit holes of the SAVE Act as soon as we know what the not the SAVE Act, the Save America Act. Once we actually see that bill that is supposed to be voted on next week, I will be breaking it breaking it down. Who knows? It might be on this show next week. We'll see. All right, let's jump into. Let's do it. Let's go into Kash Patel real quick because I Kash Patel. This one's not gonna be much, but this is more pandering from this administration that we need to be on guard about. Like this individual right there. Yes, sir. He has been lying his ass off about these damn files his entire time in his current position. He has told us how many times to forget about these things. He was also a big part of pushing Trump's it's a hoax thing. It's a hoax, but we got 1 million documents and a whole bunch of videos and everything. But it's a hoax, guys. It's not real. Like, really? All right.
You told me when we last talked, this is 8 months ago when we did an interview at the FBI in Quantico, that you were convinced that Epstein killed himself in jail. Today, 8 months after that, are you still convinced?
Yes.
100%.
Yes, sir.
He is convinced Epstein killed himself in jail. Still, 8 months later. You asked him a year ago, he was dead sold on it, and he was telling you everything about that Epstein was for sure suicided, and that is what has happened, and we need to release these files. We need the Epstein list. We need this. We need all of this. And then he gets into government, and he turns into this little thing, just like all of the politicians do. I was actually a big fan of Kash Patel. I was also a big fan of Dan Bongino until they took their current positions. I'm done with both of them. Done with both of them. Dan Bongino, in my opinion, was sent back to do his podcast to try to save the Republican Party for the 2026 election. Oh, for sure he got Clinton. For sure. We know that for sure.
You told me when we last talked, this is 8 months ago when we did an interview at the FBI in Quantico, that you were convinced that Epstein killed himself in jail.
Oh,
Today,
I already rolled it back.
Months
Sorry.
After that, are you still convinced?
Yes.
100%.
Yes, sir.
I can't believe that. So he will just sit there and lie to your face. Now, he won't give you an explanation and say, you know what? Hey guys, there's a bunch of data. There's all of this. I am convinced this is how my position changed. He won't come out and say anything like that. He just comes out and being like, oh yeah, he killed himself. Trust me, bro. No, we don't trust people in the government. We don't trust people in the government. So when it comes to you, and you said all of this shit for several years, Kash, you said all of this shit for several years, and then all of a sudden you get into elected a position and all of that shit's gone. Nope, he killed himself. Just like Dan Bongino. And now Dan Bongino is calling all of us a black pillar, and we're grifters, and we're this, and we're that. Like, okay, Dan. No, we wanted the stuff that you talked about, that you said you had insight on. You had insider information. You had the people that were in the know. You told us for sure you had this detail, and then you get into office and everything's 180. No, we can't be doing this with anybody in the government. Not a single freaking person should be accepting this. But there is a lot of Dan Bongino loyalists, and I get it. I liked Dan. There's some people I've had to disagree with and I cut ties with. Like, you guys all know I voted for Donald Trump in 2024. Because of his actions in this administration, I am never voting for a president again. Because I voted for him. Because of what he did, or lack thereof, I'm never voting for a president ever again. Ever. It's not worth it. It's not worth my time. It's never going to change anything. I'm going to prepare for when this country is going to be in really bad shape, and going back to being a little bit of a prepper and building up my community and state to take that on when it happens, because there's no fixing this, guys. I know it's a doomer mentality, but Donald Trump went against almost every campaign promise. He delivered on Ross Ulbricht. He delivered on, I guess, cutting taxes, but he didn't really do much. Did he really give everybody no tax on Social Security? No, he gave them an extra deduction. Did you get no tax on tips and no tax on overtime? Yeah, until 2028. And then when now JD Vance probably won't get reelected, so that means that won't get renewed in Congress. And so now no tax on tips and no tax on overtime is gone. Your no tax on your car loan that you got is gone. These are the type of things that these politicians do to keep the carrot dangling in front of your face and to get you to reelect them. I won't vote for somebody else on a notion that they just keep dangling this carrot in front of my face. If you wanted to make America great again, you would have made no tax on tips permanent. And you wouldn't have gave it a cap. You would have made it permanent and no cap. You would have also did no tax on overtime and gave no cap and would have made it permanent. Then you campaigned on no tax on Social Security and you only gave them an additional like $6,000 deduction. You didn't give them real no tax on Social Security. You just gave them an additional deduction. These are the mind games these politicians are playing. Not to mention, like what we talked about on the game show last night, all of the money that is going into these campaigns, where does that go? It's your money you and businesses are donating to political candidates. And that money, Kamala gained like $20 billion or something. It was some ridiculous amount of money in a very, very short period of time. Where did that go? She was paying artists and stuff for coming and dancing and singing at her rallies, so she can at least get some people to show up to listen to her. Like that, all of that money is coming from donors and these people that want power and control. But then they're also taking it from the American working class. The American people are donating to this, and they get nothing out of it. They get bribed, they get sold that they're going to make the country better when all they're doing is making the wealthy more wealthy. They really bought into the stupid game plan. And we have turned our political campaigning into a money laundering scheme. Because if you have $20 billion, guess what? Oh, and you want to run an ad? Oh, hey, my ad price went up like 300%. For you. Like that's it. That's how they'll do it. And so it's no skin off of their back because they'll just go get more donations and then they'll just keep going with it. But no, a normal ad from a business is probably a quarter of what they charge these political campaigns. And I'm talking the national campaigns, guys. I'm not talking about your city councils, your state, your board members and those things. There's money in those campaigns, but not the millions and billions of dollars that are from the national level. That is a crazy amount of money that is involved, and we should probably do a video breaking all of that down one day, because like my mayor ran in 2024. He said he needed $50,000 to win, and $50,000 is a lot for the city. My city is only like 60,000 people in size. So $50,000 is a good chunk of money to try to raise and win when he had no real opponent, and he still had to raise $50,000 to try to make it happen. Money is just flowing through political campaigns. That ads and revenue, all of that is going to their friends in media. That's how they're controlling the media. All right, off my soapbox. Let's get back into this. Let's get into the bill, the spending bill. Let me pull this up here. So the spending bill is disgusting. It's very disgusting. For anybody that wants to look it up, it's HR 7148. HR 7148. You have to look at the amendments and all of the amendments that were voted on and which ones approved and which ones didn't get approved to go into the bill. So there's no real clean bill at the time of voting and at the time it gets passed that you could just go and pull up the bill and just be like, oh, okay, I'm going to read all of this text. Doesn't work that way. It's a pain in the ass. So you could piece it together. There's a couple websites that actually help bring it together, but they're kind of clunky. Phil says taxes aren't what's on the bill, it's what is spent. The deficit increased, and that's a true tax increase. I agree. This entire thing, this spending bill is disgusting. One, we already talked about the vehicle kill switch. Thomas Massey put it up and to try to repeal it. So if this bill passes, it gets rid of the mandate from the federal government, which was put in, I believe, by Joe Biden. And so this would get rid of that. Now, this kill switch is a little bit of a extreme exaggeration of what it is, but it very easily can turn into that. And so one thing you don't do is you do not give the government an inch. They will take a mile every time. And this is exactly what that scenario is. You give them this kill switch. It's in the cars. There's something that can remotely or disable it, disable your vehicle. For whatever reason, if you seem it was just, most of it seems to be around drunk driving, which I don't care. That is not a reason to be putting kill switches in people's cars. You need to punish them other ways, and that's how it needs to happen. But putting something in a car to where you could have kill switches and you want to just go out and drive, but it's a bad air day. Sorry, the government's going to turn off your car that day. They don't want you driving because it's a bad air day. They don't want you to do that. So the kill switch failed with 57 Republicans joining Democrats. And by the way, 2 Republicans from Utah, and that is Blake Moore and Celeste Malloy, which I've been warning everybody about for many years. They are evil. They are Republicans. So when you say Republicans are the best, I'll tell you right now, those 2 are not Republicans. They're barely even conservatives. And so if you want conservative leading representatives, you actually need to look into them and their voting pattern and what they actually, their voting record and what they actually do, because their records are awful. And what they have actually spoke about, because Celeste didn't really have a record. She just worked on campaigns. But if you actually looked at some of her speeches and stuff working with the different campaigns, you would know exactly how she's going to vote. And I tried to warn everybody, and everybody's like, oh, well, it could have been worse. All right, next, moving on. Amendments they blocked. There was a NATO invasion protection that was blocked, so that this would prohibit funds from being used to invade NATO countries. Okay. Why was that blocked? War powers would have prohibited non-defensive military force without congressional authorization. So we blocked prohibiting non-defensive military force without congressional authorization. We blocked that. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with giving Congress the authorization to be able to do that? And just say it requires Congress to make that decision. No. They blocked it. The other thing that they blocked was they tried to pass an amendment saying that would require congressional approval before any military action against Mexico. What's wrong with that? That's already how we should be running our freaking country. If we want to go into another country or strike another country, we need to declare war. It needs to go through Congress. What did we get out of Venezuela? What did we get? We're spending more time talking about Venezuela and the oil than we ever did talk about Venezuela and the drugs. So we went to Venezuela for the oil, as you guys already know. The other thing that's really weird to me is there was an amendment for the CDBC to ban it, but that was already done last year with HR 1919. So why was there a reason to put another amendment in here to be able to do it? And this passed. If there's already a law to do it, why did we put this one in there? To ban CDBC, HR 1919 was already passed, but we did it again? I don't know if this is stupidity or if there's some manipulation of words that they're trying to use. I don't know. I can't piece it together here, but That was already done. The other thing, everybody knows about government subsidies and farmers. And with government subsidies, one of the biggest things that they do with farmers is corn, especially since we started putting corn in gasoline for ethanol. We did that to decrease gas prices. We never decreased gas prices because we inserted at 10% ethanol into gas. Gas prices never went down. They actually went up as soon as we did this. They wanted to set it to where ethanol 15, so E15 gas, could be available year round. And so up the subsidies for corn. Let's up corn. Right? We can't pay farmers to become more, to get more beef. We got to buy that from Argentina. But we'll pay the American farmers to produce corn. Something that we don't even need to eat as humans. It's not even a good thing for us to consume. But beef, we'll buy that from another country instead of back our farmers. This is how hypocritical and how stupid our Congress is. Corn will grow here. We'll buy our beef from Argentina. Is beef from Argentina great? It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be one of the best. Sure. But let's be America first. Let's back American farmers and give them more money to grow beef. Well, to raise beef, not grow it. Raise beef. What the hell are we thinking? And so now we actually blocked it, which I'm okay with. I'm blocking this, but why in the hell was this a topic of conversation? I have no freaking idea. Because it's really stupid. We blocked it, but we wanted to spend the time to talk about it and to be able to potentially put more money into corn. When we said, oh, we can't do that with beef, we're going to buy our beef from Argentina. What the freak? Rep Kashmir Murray from Illinois tried to block the Insurrection Act. That didn't work. Housing for non-citizens, by the way. Let me see. What are my notes here? For House Appropriations Committee, legacy writers and prohibited illegal aliens from receiving housing assistance are maintained. Prohibit illegal aliens from receiving housing assistance are maintained. It also prohibits funds to any state or local government that administers programs offering such assistance. That's probably due to Minnesota. And the federal government dictating. The problem with this is the federal government's dictating what states can do. That is the main issue, and we shouldn't be doing that. I had a big rant last night on states' rights. We really need to be doubling down and supporting states' rights. So I talked about the federal government. I don't trust them right now. We really need to be preparing for if stuff was to go down with the federal government. So we need to build up our states, not turn over more power to the federal government. And this is where we're putting more power into the federal government to override your state. I'm not really a big fan of that. Now, am I a big fan of stopping our money, taxpayer money, going to illegals to fund housing? I am not a big fan of that either. I don't think we should be doing that. But if the federal government is going to override the state making those decisions, I have issues with that. The state needs to make that decision. Now, if the federal government wants to say you're not getting any federal funds, if you do that, that's the federal government's obligation. But don't be dependent on the federal government and you'll be just fine. Again, they're useless. We don't need them and we need to stop it. Rick Perry tried to, this is the next thing. Rick Perry tried to prohibit funding entities operating automated speed enforcement. So he tried to stop funding for the automated speed enforcement, so like the cameras and stuff like that you see in some states. Here in Utah, we're trying to get that in a bill this year. Hopefully it doesn't pass. It doesn't look like it's going to, but I'll keep you guys updated. It just didn't go through. It didn't even get voted on, I don't think, because I couldn't find any numbers on it. All right, let's get into the spending. So with the spending, one thing I do give credit for here, we did actually cut our international spending by like 10%, 9.14% or something like that. We cut our international spending by like $9 billion. We still spend $50 billion going to other countries. In our funding bill, by the way, to reopen our government, we still had to spend $3.3 billion, send that to Israel. We still had to spend $2.1 billion going to Jordan. We had to spend $1.5 billion going to Egypt. By the way, those three all were amended by Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey put it out there, said, no, we shouldn't be doing this. No, we don't need to be sending money to those three countries. No. And he put it up and it was still voted to go through. They still funded it. Why in the hell, when we actually vote, we want a spending bill for our government to open back up, which I didn't. I wanted the government to stay closed. But for our government to open back up and our spending bill, why do we have billions of the dollars going to another country? Billions. Israel, Jordan, and Egypt all got, what is that total? That would be a total of $6.9 billion going to other countries other than America. Don't you think that $6.9 billion could be better spent on Americans? Like, let's back our farmers. That beef problem that we were just talking about. Let's take half of that money, $3 billion, and back cattle ranchers. Let's back the farmers and stop buying beef from Argentina. Why not? And then put some pluses on it if you wanted to up the quality of your beef, not antibiotics and not all of the bull crap. Make quality beef that's comparable to Argentina and be like, hey, we'll give you more money. That's how you do it. You don't go and buy it from another country in the sense of being like, oh yeah, we'll just buy it from over there instead. That's not America first, guys. There's a whole bunch of $1 million spendings like Taiwan, Philippines, Palestine, Indo-Pacific got $1.8 billion. What else? Yeah, we spent so much money going internationally when we could have put this. Probably totals out of all of that. Looks like that totals roughly around 10 billion in just these numbers that I put together, which are the bigger figures. Like, there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here that is spent that adds up to that $50 billion. But we did cut it down. Last spending, it was up 9%. So it is less. That's a win. It's progress. It's not where I want it, but it's progress. So overall, the spending bill is exactly what we'd expect. It opened up the government. It funded the bullshit that we don't want. It's going to fund other countries. It's going to go internationally. And it's so not America first. That is what Trump campaigned on. And this entire bill is everything against America. And it was to open up our government. Can you blame people for saying that they think our government is ran externally or ran by another country? I know a bunch of people in the comments will be like, oh, Israel, Israel, Israel. I'm like, yeah, I believe Israel has a huge hand in it. I do. But how can you not say that when you start looking at all of these bills? Oh, yeah, well, the government will reopen up and then just give us more money. We'll just stick it in these bills. Absolutely insane. Overall, guys, these spending bills are awful. They are not fair. They are not for you. They are not for America. We were passing spending bills like not long ago that would last a whole year. We can barely pass a spending bill that gets us 3 months now. We were just on a lockdown in September. I think it was September, October. And then we went on a lockdown again in January, as I was saying, and that's not a hard prediction. It's normal. It's always us versus the government. Why do you think my handle on X is American versus Gov, man? Like, that's the deal. It is us versus the government. The government doesn't care about us. They don't want to do anything to help us. It is really, we have to start fighting for ourselves. And that is where I'm turning locally. I'm going to focus on my state and my community. I'm done with the federal government. They're going to do what they're going to do. And no matter what, no matter how hard you vote, no how hard you passion, you scream the right things for your party on social media, it's not going to change. I know that's a doomer outlook, but we're only 14 months into this administration, and he has done nothing that he campaigned on. He did it maybe 0.5% of what he campaigned on. And it's disappointing. Very disappointing. But eye-opening at the same time. So that's where we got to make some changes. All right, let's go over some other fun stuff from Utah. Last topic here. Utah. So all of Utah's ran, well, we have a Republican governor. I think he's wishy-washy on conservative stances. And to be honest, guys, like Phil's it's in the comments. I don't know if he's still watching, but him and I don't agree on a lot, but him and I can solve a lot of problems just sitting down at a table, having a drink and talking. We could come up with a lot of solutions. That's what we got to get back to, is actually doing those things and actually coming up with solutions. Not everybody just sticking their sign in the ground and this is where I stand. It's really ridiculous when we do that, because you are not going to get anywhere. You are only looking stupid at this point.
King.
But all I'm saying with this is no more parties. Let's start looking at policy. And my governor today, not today, but recently, I want to say it was 2 days ago. Yeah, I think it was the 2nd that we did this. We passed in Utah. And remember, Republicans were against stacking the courts. We were against it. We did not want to stack the courts, because that's what Joe Biden was talking about. That's what the federal government was talking about, is stacking the courts. And what did Republicans do in Utah? We just stacked the courts. There is no reason for us to add judge seats in our state. There is no issues that is being held up because we don't have enough judges, or we don't have the right processes because there's a shortage in people or whatever. Everything's flowing and working. We just added 2 more judges for zero reason. Not one. Now we are going to hear about it, and we are going to see when Utah turns purple, probably more blue here soon. Utah's going to. Salt Lake City is going very, very blue, just like Seattle and Portland. Only the outer skirts are retaining with any type of conservative view. But Utah going the way they are, it's going to be a blue state soon, and ran from just one little city like those other states. But we just stacked the courts with 2 more now. And so the Democrats are going to be so upset, and they are upset about this, that they're going to, next time they get in charge, they're going to add 2 more, or they'll add 4, because, they added 2. We got to make up for that and more. So we're going to do 4, and we're going to flip-flop back and forth on this. And the thing that makes me mad is Glenn Beck beat me to explaining this yesterday. This is stuff that I've been saying for a long time. Those that have followed me for 6 years I've been doing this. I talk about the pendulum in government. It always swings right, left. And in that scenario, it always goes from the extremes. There's never a settle in the middle to compromise or come up with a logical solution for America. It's always the extremes, and it has to be done that way. And we need to stop that. And the packing the courts with the leadership we have now is only going to push that pendulum farther right. And so then when a left gets in charge, a Democrat, it's going to swing very hard to the left, and they're going to make some swings, and they're taking notes on exactly what is passing now and how those rights are being used. Just like I've been saying about Donald Trump sending in ICE into Minnesota. I understand we need to get rid of illegal immigrants. I'm a deport them libertarian, but I also believe in state rights. The state doesn't want them in there. There needs to be a collaboration. There needs to be some respect there. What we're doing is we're permitting the federal government to override the state and just come in and run your life. That is exactly what's happening. And don't think for a second that the Democrats are not taking note of what Donald Trump is doing in Minnesota. And then all of a sudden, the Democrats will do, if they're in charge and we have another COVID, the Democrats will come and start getting mad when a state wants to reopen and they're getting mandated and pushed from the federal government to stay closed. They're going to say, we're going to want to reopen. They'll send in National Guard. They'll do it. And that's the problem. That's the pendulum. That's how crazy this gets. And let's hear what Glenn Beck says. He says pretty much what I'm saying, but I want you guys to hear it from him.
The Republicans in Utah, you want to talk about being hypocrites? Here it is. When we talk about packing the court, what do we all say? Don't do that. That's the end of the republic. It's always the end of the republic. When somebody starts packing courts, the next people that get in, they're like, oh, well, you change that number, so I can change that number too. We're going to have 12. We're going to have 20. We're going to have 30. We're going to have 55. You see Venezuela, you see Cuba, you see any country that has ever done this, they fall into totalitarianism because they realize they can just change the referees. They'll just add more referees, and they'll add the referees they like. A legislature that expands a court after losing cases is not defending a republic. It's announcing constitutional limits only apply, unless they're inconvenient. I know you're polite. I know you don't want to, I know you want to get along with everybody. You must stand or you will lose everything. You're going to become California. And then you think that state's going to last? Are you kidding me? One side is ruthless and the other side is reserved. And the ruthless always win. I know, that's why we pack the court. No, you don't violate your own principles or you become everything that you despise. Utah once prided itself on being different, unusual.
Always.
Peculiar.
He is 100% accurate. Utahns, we had no problem, especially Mormons. Like, we had no problem. And I'm saying me, because I am a Mormon. I'm not active in the church that way because I have issues with the current leadership. But when it comes to the church and the way Mormons behave, like, we want to be different. We never wanted to go along with everybody else. Joseph Smith was chased out of the South, came all the way over here. And then this is how we settled. We got our own state. We established it. We formed the union. If you want to know how much Mormons really don't like the government, go and look up the history of Southern Utah. Mormons burned down their own town because they thought it was infiltrated with the federal government. They burned the entire thing down. Mormons, old school Mormons, didn't like government. They didn't like the organization of government. They wanted to be left alone. Just leave us alone. We'll be all right. And we wanted to be different. And Glenn Beck is nailing it on the head here.
Your own principles or you become everything that you despise. Utah once prided itself on being different, unusual, peculiar, grounded, constitutionally serious. You're not. Your road you're on, it's not leading you to any of that.
Nope.
When courts become political tools, when legislatures punish judges for rulings instead of fixing the law, when every law is answered with structural manipulation, you don't get Utah, you get California. Not all at once, not overnight, but inevitably you get it. And you're almost there.
We are there.
And once you cross this line, which you just crossed, there's no neutral ground left.
None.
Every future majority is going to feel justified doing exactly the same thing, only faster and only harsher. You think they're going to stop at 7?
Nope.
You had 5. You increased it to 7 because it's overwhelmed. That's a lie. That's a lie. Numbers are numbers. Math is math. Sorry, GOP. Math is universal.
Glenn Beck. I'm not a huge Glenn Beck fan, but he gets it right in a lot of scenarios. Not all of them, but in a lot of scenarios. And he also knows Utah culture very, very well. And so when he speaks about what we're doing, he's generally on point. And this one, exactly it. We packed the court in Utah. We opened the door for the Democrats that are going to probably take the seat in the next election. And then they're going to pack the courts. And then after that, Republicans might take over. I bet it will be Democrats again. And we'll see if they keep adding because we opened the door. We did it once. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile every time. We shouldn't have done it. Shame on you, Utah legislature. We shouldn't have put that bill up. It shouldn't even been a negotiation, but we opened that door and we will feel the pain for it. And that is how we're going to end the show, guys. Like, this is where we talk about parties. We talk about the differences. We don't let our bias with our political party drive everything. Your political party can do wrong. That's why I think political parties need to go away. And we have to admit that. I'm glad I'm not seeing red is the solution. Vote all red, vote all blue. I don't see that as much anymore. But that's how we got into the situation. We have to remove political parties from our ballots, and Americans have to start doing some research on the individuals they want to vote for. But the biggest concern I have going into this midterm this year, we got 9 months? 9 months. We're gonna be battling issues with AI, guys. You're gonna have AI slop, and you're gonna have AI generated videos that you're not gonna be able to tell who's telling the truth anymore. This midterm is going to be sketchy, and I think the Republicans are going to play their part in it because their back is against the wall this year. They're going to lose the midterms, and so then that means Donald Trump will have a lame duck presidency, and JD Vance will have nothing to run on in 2026 in 2028 for a presidency. Just like Kamala. She had nothing to run on. She had no achievements. And if 2026 goes more Democratic than Republican, that's exactly how it will go for JD. So on that note, guys, I'm glad you guys all tuned in with me. Thank you so much. I will be doing this. We'll be back at it every Wednesday that I can. And when I say I can, like, there's occasionally some weeks that I'll miss, but we're going to be hitting this as hard as we can and exposing everything. It's election year. You know, it's my favorite year to cover this stuff because there's a lot to talk about. But give a follow. We got to follow up on the Save America Act next week. Not the Save Act. The Save Act is already up there. They're amending it. They're changing it. So now we got to figure out what are they putting in it, because we can't say the Save Act, pass the Save Act anymore. It's called Save America Act. Okay, what's in that bill? We're going to find out, guys. But tune in, follow, subscribe.